We began our first day of May 2024 with storms breaking out in the Trans-Pecos region of Texas. In the meantime, some footage from Saturday from one of our longtime viewers, David Moore, got this footage of a tornadic storm near KnoX City, Texas, located between Lubbock and Wichita Falls. There was a tornado reported there with 2.75-inch hail, which is baseball-sized, and another tornado near Seymour. Anyway, that's just one of many tornadic storms we had over the past week. So let's focus on the weather situation for today. Definitely a more active weather pattern, dry line from Amarillo down towards Pecos and the Big Bend. Some of that moisture has gone very far to the west. You can see those dew points at Presidio up to 61, which is kind of unusual. Triple point around Amarillo, and we've got this front going from southeastern Kansas to Amarillo and back up into Colorado. And we've got this warm sector in the Four Corners area with a cold outbreak moving through the Great Basin area and an even stronger one lined up for this weekend. We'll talk about that shortly. Moving out to the west coast, we see some ridging helping to drive that cold air into the western U.S. Another weather system upstream. This is weaker. The big one we're looking at for this weekend is still out there in the Aleutians. In Alaska, cold air making its way into the interior, temperatures down into the teens and 20s, and still quite a bit of cold air bottled up there in northeastern Canada, center of that 1040 millibar high, around Igloolik, up there north of Coral Harbor, and then just kind of a broad northeasterly flow across much of lower Canada. Here's the 250 millibar chart up at about 34,000 feet. And that shows the polar front jet from Oregon across Utah and up towards the Dakotas. This troughing associated with cold air advection and this strong jet stream right there, 100 knots across South Dakota. And there's the subtropical jet down to the south, grazing Texas, West Texas, with 60 to 70 knot flow up there in the upper troposphere. And we're going to be seeing a big change come into the western U.S. from up here. 140 knot jet digging this trough down into Oregon and California by Saturday. That's going to spread quite a bit of cold air aloft across the western U.S. So snows in the Sierras will be back once again. And we've got this very long zonal fetch, 165 knot flow, high EPO index coming into the western U.S., so the storm track hitting the western U.S. once again for early next week and bringing that area of disturbed weather eventually into the Great Plains. So the severe weather will continue going into next week. Taking a quick check around the country, weak frontal system in the northeastern U.S., triple point around Toronto with this cold front coming through Cleveland and approaching Columbus. There's the view on the satellite imagery. Looks fairly dry, a little bit of low and mid cloud throughout New York into Ohio, where we pick up some cumulus fields, and the main synoptic scale cloud field up there in Ontario and Quebec. A little bit of fog and stratus off the coast of New York and Massachusetts, and it's about it for the Northeast. The southeastern U.S. under a weak pressure gradient, a little bit of ridging with this 1016 millibar high across the Blue Ridge Mountains, and as you go further to the west, you get into that southerly flow coming off the Gulf. So it is a nice day down there. A little bit of sea breeze activity in the Carolinas, and some air mass thunderstorms going up all the way down towards Florida. So looking a little bit like warm season conditions. As we go into Texas and the southern plains, Oklahoma, Kansas, we get into that cyclonic weather pattern. Strong warm advection developing across Texas, and we're going to see a vast increase in thunderstorm activity tonight. There's already flood warnings out for western Louisiana, southeast Texas, and the Wichita Falls, Ardmore area. Here's a look at the satellite imagery in Texas. Numerous storms going up from Odessa down through the Fort Stockton area and into the Big Bend. You can see those long anvil streamers indicating the strong subtropical jet. 70-knot winds up there at 250 millibars, but weaker in the mid-levels, and that's one reason we're not seeing a big outbreak of supercells down in southwest Texas. But a different story further up north. Big storms going up there along the Cap Rock, and there is a boundary right through here dividing this transverse banded stratocumulus area from this deeper, more convectively unstable cumulus field along the southern Cap Rock. And where those boundaries intersect, we've got a couple of big storms going up right there. Both of those are tornado warned at this time, and those should persist through the evening. There's the radar in southwestern Texas, numerous multicells from Fort Stockton down to just west of Sanderson. Other cells along the dry line. Some of these appear to be left movers, and then as we go further up to the north, we need to use the Amarillo radar. And there we pick up multiple tornado warnings. At this time, around Clarendon down towards Turkey, those are radar indicated. This one, however, near Spearman, has a confirmed tornado. So that's going to be southeast of Spearman, tracking into this, I think that's mostly rangeland, northeast of or northwest of Canadian. There is an extensive moisture field, the precipitable water, this evening across Texas, running from 1.5 to 2 inches. That's the moisture axis right there from Victoria to Fort Worth, and some of it going all the way into Oklahoma City and Wichita. This evening, the low-level jet is active, 25 knots across central Texas, increasing to 40 knots across Oklahoma. And it accelerates a little bit more later tonight as we get a little bit of interaction with that synoptic scale weather pattern coming out of the Rockies. So we're looking at about 30 to 45 knots right up Interstate 35, and that combined with that very rich moisture field means support for mesoscale convective systems and the possibility for flash flooding. And where exactly that's going to happen? Well, let's take a look at the high-resolution rapid refresh. This is a mesoscale model, and it's about the best guess where we're going to see support later this evening for these thunderstorm complexes. This is right around the current time. This verifies fairly well with that one cell up there near Clarendon, the other activity in the Big Bend, and one on the Sierra Madres down in the south. Then going into the evening hours, we see upscale growth and a little bit of MCS development along the Cap Rock there, Childress down towards Post, and another complex along the nose of that low-level jet, the deeper moisture flowing up through the Austin area, so another complex developing there. So it looks like two main centers this evening, and that's going to be the last frame I have. Yeah, that's going to be it. So one MCS marching eastward into the Wichita Falls and Seymour area, then something down there in central Texas. And there it is, the warm advection cells already going up. One cell southwest of Fairfield, another in the Texas Hill Country, southeast of Fredericksburg. Okay, I need to go ahead and get this all wrapped up, so let's do that. I'm a little bit behind schedule. MCS, there it is in Texas and Oklahoma. Then we go into tomorrow. Most of the activity tomorrow will be along this frontal boundary and possibly down part of that dry line. Then going into Friday, severe weather chances move up into Nebraska, Colorado, and Kansas near that surface low, which is going to be tracking out of the Denver area and dragging this cold front through the central Rockies. A big storm coming together out there off the west coast. That's the one I was referring to earlier. And as we go into Saturday, you can see that pushing into Oregon, Northern California with quite a precipitation shield. More storms once again for Saturday in North Texas, Oklahoma, It's a little indeterminate at this time, but you can see some stuff right there around Abilene after dark. Meanwhile, this thing, wow, this is these thicknesses are very low, down to 531 decameters. That's very close to what you need to get snow down to sea level in that part of the country. Not saying that's what's going to happen, but very cold conditions for this time of year, and certainly some snows in the Sierra Nevadas and the Great Basin. And the system will track across the Rockies. Most of the energy will be heading up into the northern and central plains, but possibly by Monday or Tuesday, another big severe weather day somewhere along this frontal system and dry line. So at this time, it's a little bit too early to call. But as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, probably quite a windstorm developing right there, Montana down to northeastern Wyoming. Let me show you the wind field for early Tuesday. Yeah, look at that. That's 1 in the morning. These are going to be gusts right there with that color shading. So the GFS forecasting gusts 55 to 60 knots. So talking about 65, 70 miles an hour. But it does tend to over forecast the wind field, so I wouldn't really put stock in that, but certainly some windy conditions, possibly 40 to 50 miles an hour, a safe bet in that part of the country, and there could be some wintry weather associated with that. And one final check of conditions out there in West Texas. This is probably our MCS coming together. They've dropped the tornado warnings on this stuff between Memphis and Turkey, but still there's continued potential for rotation on those storms. Very prominent boundary. This is the same one I pointed out on that satellite imagery, shown up very well on the reflectivity as it surges westward through Amarillo. And then east of that boundary, there's our supercell with a continued confirmed tornado as it passes 22 miles south of Perryton, moving east at 25 miles an hour. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of chasers on that storm. And the time has come to get this video uploaded. So let me do that. The credits have been updated, and we currently only show the people who are actively supporting our efforts, whether financial or in other ways. So if you don't see your name on there and you want to see the program continue, we do rely on your generous support, and I ask that you head to Patreon and get signed up. All right, hope you have a great Wednesday night, and we'll see you back here Friday for another edition of the show. Take care. Bye-bye.